I want to move on to talk about one of the most beneficial aspects of using WPF in XAML, and that's the use of styles. Now, styles can be thought of in very much the same way as you might use a style when you're making a website. As you know, HTML has tags, and we put controls effectively onto a web page using these tags. And in the HTML, we can say that the property of this tag may be different by giving it a different color as the font is changed and so forth. And it's exactly the same when we're creating desktop applications. The controls that we use, we want them to look a certain way to suit our needs. Now, these may be mandated by our client, and they may say, I always want the header to be this color because that represents the brand values that we have. Now, that's a very typical response from a client, but in this particular instance there's no demand from our client that it looks a certain way, but we're going to take advantage of the use of styles in XAML so that you understand how they work. And if you understand CSS and how it can be applied into things that are happening inside HTML, you'll have no trouble at all. It's based around the fact that you write something once and then use it many times, because that gives you guaranteed consistency. You test it once, and you might test it against a variety of browsers in HTML to make sure that you're not getting rendering problems when one engine doesn't behave exactly the same as another. But here we're going to say that we're applying it to the screens or pages that we're making, and we're going to get a consistent look in our application once we've done that. So what I want to do is just to remind you what our application is going to look like. This is our application as we intend to develop it. And I've got some things happening here that you may notice, is that I'm saying that this color is the same in all of the controls that we want to use, which are just indicating information. Now, these text blocks, which are the labels in this particular style of programming, will all have this color, and I can apply that very easily using a style. This one's slightly different in that it's bigger than this one, and this one's slightly different in this one, that it's italic. This one isn't. And similarly in our text boxes, you'll see that I will apply styles that first off put a particular type of font size in each of these text boxes, and perhaps move the font away from the edges of the text box so that it makes it look better. Similarly, our buttons are going to have a certain style to them, and we can write these styles and then use them wherever we make these controls if we choose to. Another thing you can do is that if I've made this style, I might want in one particular case to have this particular set of text to be red, and I can override the style when I need to. So just to recap what I've done as an introduction before I actually show you some styles that we're going to use, is that we apply styles to the properties of the things that we see in our screen. The font, the weight, the background, the italic or not italic, bold, and so forth. We can change it and get this consistency of style so that it always looks the same when we use that type of control. So let's do some styling. Now, where did the styles go? They go in our file called app.xaml, and that's a central repository for resources. And we can have application resources in here, and that's exactly what we're looking for. Now, I have to say that I think there may be a problem with the way you see this on the screen when I'm making my styles, because I think I said to you there's a problem with .NET Core where it doesn't like the central resource of styles, but they work, which is a bit daft, isn't it? So that's what we're going to do, is I'm going to put them in here, and when I see an error in my editor, as long as you've created yours in the .NET framework instead of .NET Core, we'll see no problem on your screens, but you'll have to put up with them for mine until I render it using the play button, and you'll see that they're all applied exactly as they should be. Now, I've written a lot of styles for this app, perhaps rather more than we might have expected, but I'm going to paste them in and you'll see how they work. Okay, so I've got a lot of stuff going on here. And what I'll do with this particular one is I will actually supply you with the source file so that you can copy and paste this section here between the two tags, application resources opening and closing, and you'll then have the access to the styles that I need you to be able to use. Now, I want you to play with these, and I want you to make different background colors. I want you to make different foreground colors. I want you to have some playing in terms of what we do with this. So you remember my file where I had the page header, where I had a title. So what's happening? I declare a style using that opening tag. Then I say, what type of control do I want this style to apply to? And I'm going to apply it to a text block, which you remember is the name of a label. Then I have to give my style a name using the X namespace so that I can call it when I need it. Really easy, isn't it? So then what I do is that for each thing I want to set, which is the property of a control, I want to make a setter, define what property I want to work with, and say what value I want to use. Now you'll see I've said here the property is the horizontal alignment, and I want it to be centered. The font size I want to be 36. The font family I want to be TWSNMT. The font weight bold, the foreground, and the margin. Now margins are interesting because we do margins by going round, by starting on the left, so left, top, right, bottom. So that's how these margins will be set on my control. So left, top, right, bottom. And that puts 10 at the left, 20 on the top edge, 10 on the right, and 10 on the bottom. So that's a margin that we're putting around a text block with this particular style. So let's look at the control label, and you'll see there that I've put in here the italic, where I said that they were slightly different. Also the size is different. But what this allows us to do is that it allows us now to take this style and use it consistently throughout the application. Now you can see here I've done two different styles of property setting. One here is I've left the tag using the full tag definition, and on this one I've closed the tag as soon as I've got the value set that I wanted, and that's what I did throughout the others. I wanted you to see both because both work. Both are absolutely valid. This is just slightly, in my humble opinion, slightly neater, slightly more concise, and slightly more easy to read. So that's what you need to do. So you need to make these styles inside the app.xaml file, and when you've done that, these will then be available for us to call as what are called static resources. This is an application resources file, and they're static in that they're in memory, ready to be used when we need them. So they're resources we can call to apply this consistency of style that we want to have. So that's what we're going to do, and I'll leave you to do that, and then we'll pick this up in the next video.